Good afternoon. Welcome to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones. This afternoon's topic, I'm going to talk about how the Oedipus complex affects how children relate to their parents. Now, the Oedipal complex, also known as the Oedipus complex, is a term that was used by Sigmund Freud in his theory of psychosexual stages of development to describe a child's feelings of desire for his or her opposite sex parent and jealousy and anger toward his or her same sex parent. Now, essentially, a boy feels that he is competing with his father for possession of his mother, when a girl feels that she is competing with her mother for her father's affections. Well, according to Freud, children view the same sex parent as a rival for the opposite sex parent's attentions and affections. Freud first proposed this concept of the Oedipal complex in his 1899 book, The Interpretation of Dreams, although he did not formally begin using the term Oedipus complex until the year 1910. Now, where exactly does this term get its name? Freud named the complex after the character Sophocles, and that's where Oedipus Rex basically kills his father. It was an accident, but he remarries his mother. Now, in Greek mythology, Oedipus is abandoned at birth and does not know who his parents are. Now, it is only after Oedipus killed his father and married his mother he found out their true identities. Now, in psychoanalytic theory, the Oedipus complex refers to the child's desire for sexual involvement with the opposite sex parent. Particularly, a boy's erotic attention is to his mother. This desire is kept out of conscious awareness through repression, but Freud believed that it still had an influence over a child's behavior and played a role in a child's development. Freud suggested that the Oedipus complex played an important role in the phallic stage of psychosexual development. He also believed that the sexual completion of the stage involved identifying with the same-sex parent, which ultimately would lead to developing a mature sexual identity. Now, according to Sigmund Freud, the boy wishes to possess his mother and replace his father, who views the father as a rival because the child wants his mother's affections. Now, the Oedipal complex occurs in the phallic stage of psychosexual development between the ages of 3 and 5. The phallic stage serves as an important point in forming sexual identity. During this stage of development, Freud suggested that the child develops a sexual attraction toward his or her opposite sex parent and hostility toward the same sex parent. Some behavioral manifestations of the complex might involve a boy expressing possessiveness of his mother and telling his father not to hug or kiss his mom. Little girls at the age, which is a very young age, may declare that they plan to marry their fathers when they grow up. Now, the analogous stage for girls is known as the Electra complex, and that's when girls feel desire for their fathers and jealousy of their mothers. The term Electra complex was introduced by Carl Jung to describe how this complex manifests in girls. Freud, however, believed that the term Oedipus complex referred to both boys and girls, although he believed that each sex experiences it differently. Freud also suggests that when little girls discover they did not have a penis, they develop penis envy and resentment toward their mothers for sending her into the world so insufficiently equipped. Eventually, this resentment gives way to identification with her mother and the process of internalizing the attributes and characteristics of her same-sex parent. Now, it was Sigmund Freud's view of female sexuality that were perhaps his most heavily criticized. The psychoanalyst Karen Horney refuted Freud's concept of penis envy and instead suggested that men experience womb envy due to their inability to bear children. Freud himself admitted his misunderstandings Well, his understandings of women basically was less than he fully realized. He said in this quote, "We know less about sexual life of little girls than on boys." He explained, "But we need not to feel ashamed of this distinction. After all, the sexual life of adult women is a dark continent for psychology." Now, in each stage in Freud's theory of psychosexual development, children face a development or developmental conflict that might be resolved in order to form a healthy adult personality. Now, in order to develop into a successful adult with a healthy identity, the child must identify with the same sex parent in order to resolve the conflict of the phallic stage. So, how does a child go about resolving the Oedipus complex? Sigmund Freud suggests that while the primal id wants to eliminate the father, the more realistic ego knows that the father is much stronger. The id, as you may recall, is the primal source of energy that seeks to immediately satisfy all unconscious urges. The ego is the part of the personality that emerges to mediate between the urges of the id and the demands of reality. According to Sigmund Freud, the boy then experiences what he called castration anxiety, a fear of both literal and figurative emasculation. Freud believed that as the child becomes aware of the physical differences between males and females, he assumes that the female's penis has been removed and that the father will also castrate him as a punishment for desiring his mother. In order to resolve the conflict, the defense mechanism known as identification kicks in. Now, it is at this point that the superego is formed. The superego becomes a sort of inner moral authority, which is an internalization of the father figure that strives to suppress the urges of the id and make the ego act upon these idealistic standards. In the ego and the id, Freud explained the child's superego retains the character of the child's father, and that the strong feelings of the Oedipus complex are then repressed. Now, outside influences, including social norms, religious teachings, and other cultural influences, help contribute to the repression of the Oedipal complex. It is out of this that the child's conscience emerges, or his overall sense of right and wrong. Now, in some cases, however, Freud also suggested that these repressed feelings could also result as an unconscious sense of guilt. While this guilt may be overtly felt, it can have an influence over the individual's conscious actions. Now, what happens if the Oedipus complex is not resolved? Well, when the Oedipus complex is not successfully resolved, as when conflicts at other psychosexual stages are not resolved, a fixation at the point in development can result. Freud suggested that boys who do not deal with this conflict effectively become mother fixated, while girls become father fixated. As adults, these individuals will seek out partners who resemble their opposite sex parent. Now, going back to the Oedipus complex or the Oedipus theory, I believe that this is a theory that can also lead to incest. In every community, there are boys who are worshiping their mothers. You see it a lot more in the black community since there are less fathers. This is why a boy is at home and usually the daughter gets kicked out. Now, this is not true in all cases, but in a lot of cases it is. And a boy is given the term man of the house, even though that the boy has no type of understanding about responsibility and or being a man. But some of these mothers out here basically want the man to be the man that they wish they had or procreated with. But that didn't happen, so she utilizes her son, and in Some cases, there is incest involved. We don't talk about this much because we sweep it under the rug. And in the black community, when it comes to any type of mental health issue, we believe that it's white people's problems, but incest, molestation, they all take place in the black community. And if you don't believe me, look at some of these Facebook Live videos where in one instance there was a young black lady who gave her 4-year-old son oral sex. That's a behavior that is sexual deviant. But if you look at another point in the African American community, when it comes to a son being taught how to worship his mother and being protective of his mother, well, some of these mothers are overprotective of their sons. In other words, if a mother wants to find love in her life, that son is going to intervene and vice versa. So therefore, both mother and son are dysfunctional in their behavior. It's nothing wrong with loving your mother. I mean, I love my mother. But you have a number of sons, because they didn't have a father in their lives to teach them about being a man, they get all of their information from their mothers. And the mothers are usually talking badly about the fathers, but the mothers did not understand that they weren't anything themselves for picking the wrong types of people in their lives. Now, when it comes to the other way, the Electra complex, which I'll do a video on that is seen more as common incest between father and daughter. And we raise more heaven and hell about that than what's going on with the Oedipus complex. And the Oedipus complex is also real. Let me give you another example. I was watching a video last year, and it came out around this time, or could have been earlier, it may have been June of 2016, where there was a son who was 18 years old. He took his mom to the prom. Now, he had his arm around his mom, and his mom had his arm around him as if they were a couple. Now, I don't know if any kissing or touching took place, but it has happened. And just because a lot of us are kept in the dark about it, some of us are in denial about it, a lot of us do know about it, but we're too ashamed to admit it. So the reason why I'm putting this video out, and I want to warn all the guys out there, if you're dating and you find that you see this situation, don't get involved, because you're going to be frustrated and it's going to be constant drama, because you're entering a very dysfunctional pair of people. And at the end of the day, it's going to result in you being frustrated. That's why you must ask questions and look at behavior. Many of us have to understand that the root causes in all behaviors and attitudes is the mental and psychological state of a person. And if they're not cured, and you end up procreating with them, marrying them, or even dating them, you as a person could find yourself in a dysfunctional state. Now, of course, when it comes to all communities, you're going to have some of these mothers deny that they've had any involvement with their sons, when that could be further from the truth. And this is particularly why you see it in the African American community. And a lot of these boys are emasculated because they get all their information from their mothers. This is why these boys aren't men. These boys are shamed when they want to become men, because the mothers control these boys. The mothers are dominating over these boys. That's why these boys worship their mothers. And particularly in the black community, we always believe that when we become successful, we have to buy a house or a car for our mom. We don't have to, but we believe that we should. It's our duty. No, your duty is to yourself. Your mom's duty was to raise you. You can do it as a choice. Would you help your mom? Certainly. But would you sleep with your mom? No. But there are a number of these young boys doing it, and it's crossing the line into incest. And we talk about the sibling incest, but mother and son is very common. And I know it is in the African American community, because these boys don't have positive role models. And these girls don't have positive role models either. So what happens to these children? They become confused. And the mothers didn't have positive role models. It is a vicious cycle. But in the African American community, incest was put upon them during the slavery times, especially in Cambridge, Maryland, where Harriet Tubman was from, where family members were forced to have sex with each other to bear children, so those children could be utilized not as human beings, but as property to other slave owners, so they can have free labor for themselves when that child gets older. It's a shame, but this theory of the Oedipus complex exists. And when you watch this video, I am not trying to point out that it's just the black community. It's every community, but it's more prevalent in the black community because we always deny all of our social, psychological, mental issues, and we tend to think that they're all white people's issues. No, they're our issues, and that's the root cause and the downfall of our community, and that's why there is so much dysfunction. You don't have to believe me, but if you go into every urban area in the United States, whether it is Chicago, Baltimore, New York, Houston, Milwaukee, Detroit, wherever you go, even to the smaller cities, you see the same thing. And this is where you're going to find the Oedipus complex. You see a lot of sons who worship their moms. They protect their moms. There's nothing wrong with protecting your mom. But when you protect your mom with the feeling of jealousy when another man comes into your mom's life, and vice versa, the mom becomes overprotective of her son, especially when any girl enters his life. Now, yes, you want to make sure that your mom and your son don't bring anybody into their lives that are going to cause harm or destruction. But when everybody is measured by the same accolade, there's something going on in that behavior. And that behavior that I believe is the Oedipus complex. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show for this afternoon, Saturday, July 15th, 2017. You can tune in to the 411 Talk Zone radio show every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Guest call-in number is 215-383-5785. If you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 411 Talk Zone radio show so I can continue to bring you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. Now, on this channel, I don't engage in debates, controversy, or emotional issues, nor do I participate in drama and or unnecessary bickering because it is counterproductive. It's a waste of time. What I do on my channel is to educate my audience and viewers on how the real world works. So what I do, I research the topics, I read and interpret articles by professional mental health professionals, people like Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, and then I give you my own interpretation. Whether you agree or disagree, you're getting education that's going to help you survive in the real world, because if you don't have the tools, you're going to struggle. And what I'm giving you is information that's realistic, truthful, and positive, because knowledge is power. And if you have a new business, a YouTube channel, or you want me to discuss a topic on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, please email me at lej6521@gmail.com. And if you have a comment, please leave your comment in the comment section under the video. But make sure that your comments are pithy, no bloviating, pettifogging, or filibustering, if you wish to opine. Now that's it for this video. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember, please be gentle and respectful to each other, and have a wonderful and blessed afternoon.